Welcome to CusaCast, where we interview some of the most influential people in tourism from around the world. My name is Graham Watson, and I'm the founder of Cusa Global. The word Cusa means a new dawn, and in 2023, we want to find out just how our guests are working towards that new dawn. Join us and subscribe to future episodes as we hope to inspire you with stories of strength and resilience in the tourism industry. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of CusaCast. Today, my guest is Cindy Muller, who is the director of Gold Restaurant in Cape Town. How are you doing today, Cindy?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Graham. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. I've been lucky enough to have been to Gold many times in the course of my career, hosting groups and from all over the world. It's always been a great experience, culinary as well as entertainment-wise. You put on a good show there. So, yeah, I just wanted to have a chat to see how the last 3 years has affected you. So, interesting to hear your viewpoints. So, the way we generally start on the podcast is just run through, a bit of your career, how you got into the running Gold, and just let everybody know a bit more about who Cindy Muller is.
Well, I wouldn't have thought that I'd be in tourism, to be honest. I think when I started out, I just wanted to have restaurants. So restaurants was always my passion. And so I've just had a series of different styles of restaurants, from the traditional pizzeria to a steakhouse to a French-inspired. So it was really just, I suppose, my journey through restaurants, which got me introduced to an African restaurant. I was a partner at the Africa Cafe for many years. So that introduced me to African cuisine, which was very unfamiliar to me. And then when I met my husband, Jan, we wanted to open up something which was a bit more sophisticated and more tourism-based experience. And that's how we started Gold in 2007. So it was really a love for restaurants. I still love restaurants. And it was also my beginning of my love affair with Africa. That started in the late 90s when I started traveling through Africa and really understanding, getting to know people, getting to taste the different dishes that were prepared for me and that I was preparing with people. And that was a real eye-opener and a love affair, and far better than pizzas and pastas, which I didn't really go with or to know anything about. I'd never been to Italy. So this actually had more meaning for me. And I think that that's been a bit of my journey, is do something which is meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, great. It's a culinary feast, I mean, to put it mildly. So just describe for the listeners how, I mean, so the Gold has the interactive entertainment as well as the food that comes out. You got about 14 different dishes now. Yeah.
It was my wanting to try and give visitors to Cape Town or South Africa a taste of the African continent. Because, I don't know, Graham, from my perspective, Cape Town's very Western, we're very European.
Yeah.
And I never felt that we were even connected to the African continent. It never felt like we were in Africa. So that is really where the idea was born, is that how do you expose visitors to Cape Town to the African continent in one evening? So doing the djembe drumming, for instance, for me, the drum is the heartbeat of Africa. It connects you to the soul of Africa. And that for me was important. We needed to start the evening with the djembe drumming experience, let people play the djembe drum, feel a bit of the rhythm, and get connected. In the food, African food is not on everybody's top of mind at all. We don't identify, we have no identification in terms of what is an African meal. What is our national African dish? We don't have it. There's nothing that connects us to an African menu. So doing an a la carte kitchen didn't really make sense, because what do you know what to order? You don't. So it's better just to give people a taste of Africa through a different cuisine. So you go to Kenya, you can go to Morocco, you can go to South Africa. And that's really where we called it a safari. We called it a taste safari.
Mm-hmm.
So try as many dishes from as many countries over the course of your evening, and hopefully you've learned a bit about some of those countries. And that was how we put the African continent on the plate. And then our entertainment is also a combination of North Africa with the Malian puppets. Those puppets are, in Mali, they're used for all celebrations, and they are the bridge between the living and the dead. So you're always remembering your ancestors when you are celebrating. So your ancestors are included in celebrations.
Lovely.
And that was what I wanted to use for the entertainment because, A, they are unique. You don't see them outside of Mali. Second, they're silent puppets. They just have personalities. So they dance and interact with people. But it is a way of remembering all our ancestors. And then we use Congolese drummers. So we have Central African rhythm with our performers who are from South Africa singing songs, dancing, but they dance to Central African rhythm.
Yeah.
It's kind of how we are connecting the continent.
No, I mean, it's as I say, it's a lovely experience. And you've also got an enhanced experience that you do with spices. Can you just walk us through that? Yeah.
My new favorite. Yes. So the spice experience was, gold grew quite quickly from 150 seater to 200, and now we're sort of at 450. And I suppose it was also part of my journey, wanting to have more intimate experiences when I travel, and something that is unique. And when I travel, part of the reason I travel is to learn. You learn about the country that you're visiting, their culture, their food, and the history. So I think it was after my visit to Zanzibar in 2018. I went back in 2019, and I learned about the spices and the spice route specifically, slave trade, colonialization, and just chatting to people about how that influenced their food, perhaps. And when you travel in Africa, you go to Morocco and there's just French. And you go to Mozambique and there's a lot of Portuguese. You go to Namibia, you still got leftover German influence. So all the countries that I've visited throughout the years, you identify the colonial backdrop to that country through the food as well as the history. So, and I love history. So part of me wanted to explain to our clients, Africa is the most incredible continent, but we have a leftover of colonialization in our food, in our culture, in our people, in our borders. And how did this come about and why? And really, it just goes back to the spice route and the discovery of the route around the Cape. And sort of that was the first globalization, really, of the world. So I wanted to put this in a very intimate and curated evening, and also keep the focus on food. So I developed what I call the spice experience, and we talk about exactly that, sort of how they discovered the route around the Cape, how that led to this huge mass globalization of the new worlds, and how that has affected Africa specifically in our culture, our food, our borders. And during the evening, we introduce certain food items where we use the spices. We try and identify the spices. I then talk about the spice. So a lot of spices got very interesting history. It's got very interesting stories. And it's just, for me, it's a very moving evening because it's a very intimate evening. And after we've tasted all our spices, identified the spices, talked about the spices, had the history lesson, we then go and visit the chefs in the kitchen. And we teach our guests how we make our dry spice masala mixes. And then we talk about how you can apply that in food, how you can use it. And then they get introduced to all the chefs and they have the most wonderful time in the kitchen with the chefs. Yeah. And then they come back to their table and have the wonderful feast, which we make up with all different spice mixtures from Africa as well. So it's a very spice infused evening, but there's a lot of history that goes with it and interesting stories around spice.
Yeah, no, it's really sounds amazing. I worked on a ship around the Indian Ocean, and not so much spices, but I've been to Zanzibar many times, but I've fallen in love with essential oils like ylang ylang and lemongrass, and yeah, so I always try and surround myself with ylang ylang and lemongrass because that's just all over the Indian Ocean.
Correct.
So how did you, when you first started opening after COVID, what protocols did you put in place, or did you just choose to wait it out until it wouldn't impact on the guests too much?
We had all the legal protocols in place. I was incredibly anxious, funnily enough, and I'm not an anxious person by nature, but I kept having recurring nightmares about waking up, or my nightmare was in the restaurant and realizing that nobody's got a mask on.
Yeah.
And this terror that we were serving people and there was no masks protocols. And so I was a little bit over the top with our protocols, to be honest.
Yeah.
And everything was just sanitized and re-sanitized, and like our drums, those are, such a touch point. So they were sanitized twice, and then we sanitized everybody's hands after it. It was just ghastly. And I think that it took me a while to get over my obsession with wanting to keep everybody safe and healthy. And we had very strict protocols in our kitchen, but we've got a very small kitchen, so it was almost impossible. And we couldn't keep distance in the kitchen. That was really impossible. But we had double masks on our kitchen staff, and any sign of a little cough, so they'd be sent home. So I was very anxious. I was a bit paranoid in the beginning, but we were only allowed 50 people at one stage, I think.
Yes.
And in our venue, we can accommodate 350. So 50 people, we could space them out with a kilometer between our tables. Yeah. So, that part didn't really bother me. We had special filters put in our air conditioning units, same that you have on a plane. So we kind of just went completely to the extreme, but that's the way I think I do everything.
Yeah.
It was difficult. It was difficult mentally opening. And I think that the first reopening in 21, when we had, we just started trading again, sort of October, November, and we were just starting to get year-end function bookings, and it was really getting exciting. Then 26th of November was Omicron.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we all remember that.
That was, and I was just, in fact, building the Spice Experience dining room because I built a special room to do these very intimate dinners in.
Yeah.
And I was just busy finishing doing the decor, and I had no money. I had absolutely no money left. And I was taking things from other dining rooms and where I was finding it at home and friends' house, sister's house, and I was using these to decorate the dining room. And then we got the news, and then the cancellations came through. And I just remember sitting in that dining room weeping because I just didn't think that I could pick myself up again after that.
Yeah, I mean,
that was my low point during COVID, to be honest.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think it's, for most of us, it was all the hope, and we thought everything was back to normal. My niece was actually in the air from London to go to Durban via Dubai, and when they announced the red list, and and her boyfriend turned back in Dubai because, of course, they hadn't any clue how long that red list would last. And she had to be at work, and so there's so many stories, and that Omicron and that it's terrible times. And like I said to you before we started recording, it's almost with tentative optimism and positivity that we go forward, because we're so accustomed to being let down
Absolutely.
It almost feels the normality that we knew in 2019 almost feels surreal now. It's like, is this really happening? You know, you've luckily said that how lovely and busy you are, and it's almost like you can't exhale just yet. You know, it's that feeling of yeah, it's certainly, I mean, in all the interviews that I've done over the past few weeks, the whole yeah, it's the mental health issues have come through for a lot of people, and the hangover of that is still around. You know, I think but that's the beauty of the tourism industry. I think we all help each other, especially those of us with businesses of our own. We you know, feed off each other in the value chain of tourism, and we just try and help each other. You know, my favorite saying is the rising tide raises all the ships, and that's what I think the tourism industry is. You know, it's
very much so. Very much so.
As our friend Tom Cruise told the whole world the other day about Ubuntu. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your kind of day to day, I mean, you live out in Franschhoek, the restaurants in Cape Town. I mean, just run through a day in the life of Cindy Muller. What do you use in terms of staying productive? Are you a digital or a paper person?
I'm actually a bit of both. I prefer paper because it gives me time to think. I'm a very fast typer. So I did a typing course when I was about 15 or 16 years old. So I typed like fury. So, yeah, my average day is I'm also obsessive about attention to detail. So every single email that arrives in Gold inbox, and we have a few, and every email that gets sent out, I read.
Yeah.
And if there's a mistake on one of my staff's emails, I address it with them. And if I think that they could have phrased something better, I let them know. And then, so my email inbox for January was 8,500 emails.
Sure. My word.
My inbox, I read every single email. So I get up quite early in the morning, and the first thing I do is check all the emails that have come through in the evening and respond to emails from there. So I also have another rule in the restaurant that every email has to be responded to within 24 hours. We don't allow anything longer than that. Even if you are trying to work out a very complicated quote, you just get back to your client and say, I'm busy with it, and you'll have it tomorrow morning. So I think because I'm an impatient person, I expect that from suppliers, and I want to give that to our clients, that you have a very quick turnaround for your bookings. And yeah, I mean, dealing with the numbers that we are getting a lot of bookings. We rely on a booking service called Dine Plan to do our everyday bookings, but then our DMCs that are planning events, special evenings, I mean, they take care and attention, and we try and give them that. So that's a lot of detail that goes into all our quotes. Then I work probably 3 or 4 nights a week, and I'm doing quite a few spice dinners. So I like to do the spice dinners myself, and so I'll go in for that. So I leave here at about 11, because the other thing about Cindy Muller is I hate traffic. My absolute nightmare. And I think that's why I opened up a restaurant, so you don't ever have to be sort of like in traffic. So then I spend the rest of the afternoon and the evening at the restaurant, and then most nights I will drive back. It's a 45, well, I shouldn't say that, my husband might hear. It's an hour from and so I get here, and I think the hour in the car is time that I actually enjoy spending, because it gives me some time out from my own brain sometimes to listen to a podcast, listen to music, talk to myself, phone a friend. So I actually like that time in the car.
Yeah.
And so I'm going back to the restaurant Wednesday, and then I have a small apartment in Greenpoint, and I'll stay over Wednesday night, work Thursday night, hopefully out on Friday again to do Franschhoek.
Yeah.
So my average, I work 7 days a week. I am on my emails constantly. And WhatsApp is another fantastic tool that we use. We've got different WhatsApp groups, and that works very nicely. It's a fast turnaround as well for me.
Yeah.
I'll keep in communication.
Yeah. It's interesting how we're all locked to the screens, and that's why I almost feel bad when everyone goes on about kids and screen time, because I'm going to be like, well, adults are on screens a hell of a lot, so we can't be hypocrites, but I suppose there's some ground rules we have to lay down for the kids, I suppose.
We working.
Yes,
we
yeah,
working.
we working, yeah.
Difference.
Yeah, we working, yeah. The last 3 years, as we said, we're coming up to all the anniversaries now. In terms of the industry, I mean, we touched on it briefly earlier. The tourism industry as a whole. What has it taught you about your colleagues and friends in the industry, and just as an entity, the tourism industry? I think it's proven to be very, very positive, what we've learned.
I agree with you. I think that it's an industry which does support. We support one another. We've got good champions that who really raised their heads during this time and fought for our industry. I think of Liam Tomlin, who just fought for the rights of restaurants and waiters, and people like that I really do admire. And there's a solidarity within tourism and within restaurants, and helping one another out, sending bookings to other restaurants if we couldn't accommodate, supporting. It's been an interesting period to watch how. I hate using the word resilient. I'm so tired of being resilient, and I'm sick of it. I actually just don't want to be resilient anymore.
Yeah,
I just want to be.
You just want to enjoy, instead of being resilient. Yeah,
just help one another. But I think that the tourism industry is a phenomenal industry within itself. Imagine if we were selling air conditionings or something. Just beautiful people, and entrepreneurial people, and people who are slightly not the norm.
Yeah.
I found we are slightly
quirky,
off center, and I think that's what I love about it. And tourism is made up of a bunch of entrepreneurs, and that's what makes us interesting. So I've learned a lot, and I think at the end of the day, I've learned to trust more. I've seen how trust has seen us through this adversity. We've trusted. We've trusted that our suppliers would pay us. My suppliers have trusted that I've refunded all the deposits. And going forward, there's a stronger bond and a stronger trust.
Yeah.
Certainly, in my opinion, that's how it's made me feel. And we certainly feel like we've been through this together, and we are glued together with this trust and a little bit of hope.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100%. That's exactly the way I feel. And I've seen. I mean, I've noticed it too, and I have seen a few other posts come through in terms of people forgetting the humility that they needed, and that kind of I wouldn't say arrogance, but that kind of forgetfulness of that we were all in this together, and now, as I say, that spirit is waning a bit, in terms of just being a bit more, as you say, trustful and understanding. I don't think we should lose that spirit, as we all try and get back on our feet. Very much, we are all still in the recovery phase. I think it's going to take a few more months, if not a year or two, for everybody to kind of get back and pay back the debt and everything like that. So yeah, I mean, I think we've still got a bit of way to go together, and we that spirit of camaraderie and trust and helpfulness, I think, we still need to remember it. And it is interesting because I'm not the only body that's noticed a few bad apples creeping back in, but I think it's par for the course, I suppose.
I think that we're going to be, this period in our history is always going to be remembered.
Yeah.
And for me, I wanted to be remembered for taking care of my staff.
Yeah.
That for me was priority number one.
Yeah, yeah.
once I had taken care of all my suppliers and refunded all deposits, no questions asked, I wanted to take care of my staff. That was priority number one for me.
Yeah.
And I think that history will judge us at the end of the day as to how we coped and how we looked after people.
I think people will insist on it because, businesses such as yourself who made such a conscious effort will choose to work with other businesses that did the same, I'm sure. And you'll actively seek, I know a lot of people that are doing that. They're seeking to work with people based on how the staff were treated in times of trouble. And, so I think it's a great, I just think there's so much good that's come out of it. I think that there are still a lot of people that are still struggling, and we can't forget that. But I think when we eventually look back and exhale and look back, then I think we'll realize that I hate the saying everything happens for a reason or whatever, but I think maybe we'll look back and see that. How did you, when it came to opening with limited numbers? I mean, surely at 50, there would have come a time where it's almost costing you to open rather than making a profit. How did restaurants cope with that balance?
So for us, it was more challenging because we have a whole show, and that costs us a lot of money to put on. And we did it when we had 10 people.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it was a decision that I made that we would open irrespective, because I wanted to start employing staff and I wanted them to start feeling useful again. And it was important to almost get rid of the rust and the dust.
Yeah.
And start using our space and start living in the space again. So we really, even though remember, we couldn't serve alcohol. We had to close by 8 o'clock. 30 people. And it was difficult. And I just wanted to do it so that we could start working again and start bringing in some teams. So we divided our staff into, I think in the initial period was three teams, so that we could employ somebody for 3 days and then 3 days and then 3 days. At least they had something to do. And it didn't matter that we only had 10 people. We just went all out and made it an amazing experience. But I think we were sort of averaging 20, 30 people when we reopened again. And then not saying alcohol was tough.
Yeah.
But, we wonderful fresh cocktails, and we tried to do something else. We didn't do anything skellum under the table because I'm not prepared to my license for that.
Yeah. So there weren't any interesting teapots on your table or anything.
No. I was concerned that we're a high profile restaurant, and that somebody would check or somebody would say something, and it's not worth it.
Of course,
it's really not.
No.
Well, money doesn't drive me, So it's worth it. But it was difficult, and it cost us more money to stay open.
Yeah.
But at least I think we were able to provide an interest from our staff, and we weren't as rusty as a lot of other restaurants that took a long time to open.
Yeah.
So we'd kind of walked it. And I think you've got to have we just had breakages and breakages and breakages. Our fridges were collapsing, our walk-in fridge. It just because everything had been off for so long. And getting the place sanitized every day was, took 2 staff members to do that the whole day, and then 2 staff members on duty at night to sanitize every railing every time somebody walked past, because, I got obsessed. So we could employ people, but it certainly wasn't making any money, no.
Yeah.
No.
And, I think the first time I came was at the SATSA conference last year. So that was April. How long were you completely dark for? From shutting to the first guest again?
Most of 2020, I think. I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah.
Most of 2020 we were closed, and then 21 open close. There were days we had no bookings, so we just closed it.
Yeah, for sure. And then this is what has the last 3 years taught you about yourself? What it's taught me a lot about myself. What have you learned about yourself that you didn't realize?
I think it taught me that I'm stronger than I thought. because reopening was a lot harder than opening up all 10 previous restaurants that I've had. It was really tough. It was really tough making those decisions, when and how and who. But I think it has taught me that I'm pretty strong and that I love doing what I do. Because you have to have loved it. It wasn't only a financial, I have to do this to repay all the loans that I've taken out. It was really because I love doing it. And the huge responsibility that I have to my staff and their families. I couldn't, failure or not opening was just not an option at all, not for a second. Was we're going to open, and we're going to open properly, and we'll do it as best we can. And it was a tough time, but I think it teaches you that people are more important than business money. And you look after your people and you look after yourself. But it also taught me that I like to spend time at home. Actually, for the first time in 60 years, I like being and it taught me that family time is important, because in 2020, I spent time with my family, which I hadn't done for many years. So those were my lessons, my personal lessons. And from the business, it was just take time to breathe and enjoy life while you're trying to survive.
No, I mean, that's exactly. I mean, I think it's, everyone got caught in the rat race of life. And as you say, I mean, a business, if you're not a selfish person, a business is to create employment and to have, I mean, you've got staff, but they all have sort of 5 people or whatever that depend on them. So a business is, it's more about helping everybody on the journey through life, I would say, than profit. You need the profit to pay the salary, but for me, it's how are the people in the business enjoying being in the business, and then that's
and how they're living. I think that I feel certainly a huge responsibility as an employer that I need to look after my staff. I want to look after my staff. I want them to have decent homes. I want them to have a decent life. I want them to be able to afford the things that they want to afford. I want to help them attain their dreams as well. And if their dreams mean that it's somewhere else, at another venue, another restaurant, another country, then so be it. But give them as much as I possibly can to enable them to have wonderful lives, because right now they are providing me with a wonderful life. They are providing me with a service which I would not want to be doing, is waitressing and carrying all those heavy trays around every night. I wouldn't want to be cooking in the kitchen 6 nights a week at the pressure that they do. And anything that we've managed to accomplish over the last 16 years has been on the back of our workers. And I'm a bit of a communist like that. I like to share. Also shared. I mean, they have a 10% profit included from the restaurant side. We include a 10% profit to our staff, and they share in that.
Great.
So, we do as much as we can, but I do feel a moral and it's a big responsibility that I feel personally towards our staff.
I must say, as my business grows and the sort of ideas in my mind coming through of employing, it's quite a scary thing, because the scary thing is not anything else but the responsibility that I would feel to that person to as you say, to give them a decent life. And if they've entrusted you with providing them with sort of sustenance of a salary, then you need to make sure that you're doing everything you can to provide them with that.
I think that it's the first time. I mean, this is my 10th restaurant, but it's the first time that I'm running a restaurant with the input of all the staff. So decisions are made with the staff. If I'm wanting to change anything or introduce anything, I chat to them first. So it's quite inclusive. So everybody's on board. Everybody's on board with any changes that we're going to make. When I travel, I spend the first 2 evenings telling the staff what I've experienced. So sharing that journey with them. So if I make a decision or if I have an idea in my mind and this is what I want to do, it gets discussed first. And a lot of input from the staff is really valuable because I might never have traveled. I haven't been to Cameroon, for instance. I've never been to Cameroon. So I sit with my Cameroon staff and say, okay, I really, really want to put a dish from Cameroon on the menu. I've never traveled there. What do you suggest? Let's make it. Let's see if we can get it right. How are we going to make 400 of these portions? So it is a very inclusive restaurant already. All my previous restaurants, I said, this is the menu. This is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Train, make it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
This is far more inclusive. And it's very much more the African way of doing things. It's not, and in Africa, it's not a consensus doesn't mean 51%. Consensus means 100%. Everybody has to agree to it.
Yeah.
And it's a longer way around things. It really does take a long time. But it does mean that once something has been changed, everybody's approved it. Everybody's on board.
Yeah.
And it's a pleasure from there. But it does take a while.
Have you been to Burundi?
No.
Well, my partner in Uganda, Pinnacle Africa, they do ground handling in Burundi. So if you want to head off, give me a shout. I'm actually launching Burundi in the UK.
Oh, really?
We're doing some training.
We'll talk business.
Yeah, we're doing some training. So if you want to head off, we can help you tick another one off the list, Lake Tanganyika. Yeah. No, keep me in mind because Burundi, it looks like a fascinating country. Hopefully I'm going to get there soon.
Yes.
And so my partner, Pinnacle Africa, they do Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, and Congo as well.
Congo. Yeah, we're going to Congo this year.
Oh, well, lovely.
Yeah, haven't been before. So Congo, and I've got my staff member from Burundi. So we talk a lot about that during the Spice Experience as well, because Burundi's right next to Lake
Tanganyika.
So a lot of the trading was done around the Swahili. But anyway, that's part of our Spice Experience.
Yeah, cool.
Chats.
Well, hopefully we can get you there. Just to remember. So I mean, the only person I know that I think has traveled a lot through Africa is Kingsley Holgate. Apparently, he's done every single country. Have you not?
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Listen, when Land Rover sponsors me with the Land Rover, I'll do it too. Okay.
Yes, and a few bottles of Jack Daniels. Apparently, that's quite a currency.
Isn't it rum? Doesn't he do the rum?
Captain Morgan, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yes, I think it's Captain Morgan.
Yeah.
One of those.
All I know is that there was something that was. Currency worth more than dollars was just make sure you got a bottle of Captain Morgan or something in the car.
Like that,
get through any problems. So it's great to see the tourism recovering. I mean, what are the lasting things that you not just in the restaurant in terms of the protocols maybe that you're going to keep going forward?
Well, I think that we've got a massive hygiene policy in place already. I think we're one of the few restaurants that run according to HACCP, and we keep food samples every night from every single dish that we make, whether it's for one person who has a specific dietary. So those protocols were already in place pre-COVID, the health and the safety. But I think we're just a little bit more cautious in terms of touch. We still sanitize all our drums. We sanitize the restaurant during the day before the evening shifts. We're more conscious of somebody feeling not well, that they put a mask on or they go home. And that's just that I wouldn't have done pre-COVID, to be honest. If you were coughing, I would have still made you work. But now you either mask up or you go home. You have the choice. But I think that it's made us stop and understand that life does and can just come to an end. And whatever we're doing right now today is valuable and important. And we are more focused on today because today is the only one that's really guaranteed.
Yes.
So I think my takeout, my learning is even looking ahead, when we look at our diary, it's busy, but I'm still not 100% trusting that they will still be arriving at our doorstep. So that I don't know how long that will stay with me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as I say, it's the it's the it's the it's the feeling that we've all got. Is just, oh my God, is something else going to happen? Or yeah, but
the government going to make a stupid decision because it's so much out of our hands that you never know.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I trust politicians less, which is now becoming into the negative.
Yeah.
Negative.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the UK at the moment, there's huge issues happening with things that were decided during COVID. So that's going to be an interesting evolution as well over the next few months, as to now that the dust has somewhat settled, to go back and drill down on those decisions and look at them and really interrogate those decisions, and because they did affect so many people's lives, and negatively, and they now need to be held accountable, I suppose,
I think it's taught us all lessons. I mean, there's definitely lessons that we've learned. Whether or not implementing them is another story, but it certainly has given us time to pause and to think. And I think to be more demanding. And I've noticed that our visitors are more demanding of us, and we have to really up our game, everybody, to deliver to the new traveler who spent 2 years at home, who's now desperate to travel, wants to travel, but in fact is wanting more, I think.
What, Cindy, would you like to see still change? What's the kind of goal? Yeah.
I think from a restaurant perspective, I want restaurants to pay their staff properly. I want waitering to become a profession and not a stopgap between school and varsity or while I'm looking for a job.
Yeah.
And I think that it will go a long way to assisting restaurants with proper skilled staff. I still have a burning desire to see this implemented before I leave this industry, that we take our staff seriously, we pay them good money, and we treat them with respect. I hate double shifts. I hate split shifts. I think that they are cruel. And I really want to see the industry taking waitering, chefing more seriously.
Yeah.
And paying the staff better salaries. I'm all for that, really and truly. I hate restaurant practices where they deduct money off tips.
Breakages and I mean, it's.
I just feel that we don't take it seriously enough, and we're letting restaurants get away with badly paid staff, bad working conditions. And I think that there's a lot that we can do for that. So maybe one day when I retire from the restaurant, I will put some energy into assisting staff and restaurants to get their levels, up to where it should be. But I just think that it's never been a career. We've never looked at a waiter as a career. And why shouldn't it be a career?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't it be taken seriously? Why shouldn't it be respected?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in Europe and even America, it is that you don't just get the varsity students. So yeah.
I remember the first time when I went to Europe and I was served by a man who was like 55 years old. I got the fright of my life. It was just something so foreign to me.
Yeah.
Because here our waiters were all young and about to go into varsity or at varsity and paying for their varsity studies. So it was just a stopgap. And I think that we need to start changing that, and we need to start looking at it more seriously. And for the workers in the kitchen, that's a tough job. That's a hard job.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was a waiter, we only got tips. We didn't get a basic wage. And then I remember going in sometimes, and if I had the group cancelled, I wouldn't get any money. And then I remember sort of, getting changed and waiting for my mates, and then being told to go in the kitchen and help. But I wasn't on a payroll, and I'd sort of lost money because I'd paid for petrol to get. It was the weirdest thing ever. And I just hope that there aren't any restaurants out there that pay people on tips only. Or not even pay people. I mean, yeah, there's a word for having people work for you and not pay them. And you mentioned it earlier. Yeah.
I think that that's what I would like to see going forward. I think too, restaurants can play in the tourism industry, and we've certainly proved it. And there are lots of other restaurants that have proved it too. So I think, I was thinking back to Indaba in 2016, 2017, when I applied to go to Indaba in Durban, and I got a letter back saying, sorry, you are not the product that we are looking for. This is after I'd launched Gold at Indaba. I'd been to every single Indaba since then, and I just did my normal application. And I just thought, wow, never going back to Indaba, so I haven't. But it just shows that in some mindset, restaurants are not taken seriously within the tourism game, and we should be. But I wouldn't want to leave this industry in a hurry. I'm loving it.
Yeah, good. No, well, maybe have another word with old Indaba. You might have just had a person who, only lasted for 2 months that got your application. And
Graham, I'm a little bit more stubborn than that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good trait.
The chairman of the Durban Convention Bureau had a meeting with me during Meetings Africa and said, oh, of course you must come. I will speak to them. And I said, nobody speaks on my behalf, but thank you very much. No, I'll never go back.
Yeah.
So I have all the other trade shows, I enjoy them, and we welcome to all of them. And
because you did something for WTM Africa last year, didn't you? Have the opening party? Yeah.
We're doing their awards evening this year. So we're doing a big 350 evening for WTM and ILTM. And then we're also attending We Are Africa, which I adore.
Yeah.
So, that everybody else recognizes that we're a player in the tourism industry.
Yeah.
But
oh, well, that's quite interesting. Have you got any plans to expand, or you just want to keep the one head office? I mean, the one sort of Cape Town restaurant.
Funny you should ask. So in 2018, I sold half of my business to TourVest.
Ah, okay.
And with the intention of opening up other similar style restaurants in Africa.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So you're revisiting that now that COVID.
So now we are.
Okay.
We are visiting that again. Yeah. And that's exciting for me. I never wanted another restaurant. I thought 10 was enough and one was big enough.
Yeah.
But I think that it's a product that can be expanded into other African countries.
Absolutely. I mean, Nairobi or there's just loads. I mean, maybe even one in little Burundi that we're starting. Who knows? It's the tourism. Everyone's looking for that authentic experience. And I was going to say, what about franchising out into Europe or America? But then that'll take away from the authenticity of being on the continent.
You lose the meaning. And for me, the older I get, the more I understand that something has to have meaning. If you're going to do it, it has to have meaning. And there has to be a reason behind it. So I'm really becoming more and more focused on just that.
Yeah.
Why is it there? What place does it hold? And what's the story behind it? So I think I'm becoming more of a storyteller than a restaurateur.
Yeah.
A restaurateur with stories, I think. And that only comes with age and experience and lots of travel and lots of talking. So those are the things that I would like to do in the future. It's more about the history, the story, and the meaning behind it. So any restaurant that I do in the future, I can only connect if it has that background to it, if it has a story, if it has history, and if it has meaning.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So I've always been interested in restaurants. So maybe one is on the cards for me one day. My daughter's name's Charlotte, and I've always told her that one day we might have Carlotta's Trattoria, little Italian restaurant, and I've even done like the menu, and so we just need to get everything else done. The ideas are there.
I think everybody's a frustrated restaurateur. We're all restaurant critics these days. Everybody's a restaurant critic. And we have to take it on the chin. And I often wonder where people have, or what their their reason is for complaining about something that they know very little about. But
Yeah.
that's nature, I suppose. But yeah, everybody wants to be a restaurateur. And when people ask me, my husband loves to cook and I love people and I'm going to open up a restaurant, I say, why?
Yeah.
Why do you want to give up your entire life? Because that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Always understand that a restaurant only operates during everybody else's downtime.
True, yeah.
You are working. You are working when everybody else is having fun.
Yeah.
That's not fun.
Yeah. I used to, I spent many years in the entertainment industry, and that was the same thing. You'd start work at 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night, whatever it was, and you finish at 12, and then be on a high, and it would be like 2 o'clock in the afternoon for you, but it's actually midnight and can't go to sleep. So and then working evenings are very, very interesting.
I think it's everybody's, it's many people's dream to have a coffee shop, a trattoria, and I understand it. For me, it was the mechanism of restaurants that I fell in love with. I love the front of house. I'm not a chef.
Yeah.
I mean, I love food, but I'm not a chef. But it was about the whole being in a restaurant. For me, it was romantic. It was fabulous. It was addictive. And so for me, it was part of my blood, part of my life. And I still love it. I mean, I've been here 43 years, and I still love it.
Yeah.
But it's become different in the way that I want to do it. It really has changed over the last couple of years. And maybe that just comes with the privilege of being able to do something which I really want to do. That's a privilege.
Yeah.
It's different to people that say, I've got to find something to do and I can do a restaurant, because you don't need any qualifications to open a restaurant. You don't need any specific skill set. Nobody asks if you've got any qualifications. Anybody can open it, quite frankly.
Yeah.
I think that now my focus has changed quite a bit.
It's great to be able to chat with you, and I'm really enjoying the podcasts. We're getting listeners from all over the world, which is fantastic. Really enjoying talking to business owners such as yourself and learning and feeling that we are still all a part of the industry and the recovery. I don't think anybody's sitting there and not affected by it at all. So how can the listeners get in touch? What's the website address?
Goldrestaurant.co.za. Goldrestaurant.co.za.
Perfect. And you can book on the website?
Yeah, there's a dine plan button that saved our lives a lot. That's my technology done and dusted. So yeah, you can book on the website, have a look at the menu, see what we're offering. I'm busy working on our new autumn menu. So I need to do it first again.
And then for any international guest listing, please go, when you book your trip to South Africa, please ask your travel agent to include Gold Restaurant in the itinerary. It'll be a fantastic experience. You get fetched from the hotel about 6 o'clock, and then you're back, about 10 or so?
Yeah, about 10, or depends on how long it takes you to finish dancing in the evening.
Yeah. No, it's a lovely experience, and I highly recommend it for any listeners. So let's hope that those tour buses and those taxis bringing the couples and the families keep on arriving at the door at Gold Restaurant. Cindy, thanks again.
Thank you, Graham. It's been lovely to chat to you, lovely to see you, and I'll see you when you visit Cape Town again.
Yes, I'll be there in the next few weeks, I'm hoping. So thanks, Cindy. Thanks a lot, and see you soon.
Thank you so much, Graham. All the best. Take care.
Thanks. Bye. Bye.
Thanks for tuning into CusaCast, where we explore the world of tourism with leaders from all corners of the globe. Join me, Graham Watson, for future episodes as we dive into the latest trends and insights from the industry. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating, and we'll see you next time on CusaCast.